Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to get the most out of your SRS or HTI trigger. They are the same trigger on both rifles, so it'll be the same process. I've got a remove trigger assembly here for you so you can see exactly what it looks like inside the rifle. We'll start with just some of the obvious things. You've got your trigger shoe, safety. The safety just slides off the front like this. You can see the shoe is attached to the trigger itself inside. You can see there how it rotates on its pin. You can also see this little finger that extends out the front is what engages the safety and stops the trigger from being pulled when the safety's engaged. So there the safety's off when you pull the safety back and the trigger can't be pulled. So you can see on the back here where the transfer bar is connected to the trigger assembly. You can also see the trigger spring here that is behind it. It's attached to this little drum here, and here on the bottom of the trigger is our trigger pull weight screw. So you can see as this screw is turned in, it rotates that little drum and pulls back on the spring, increasing the trigger pull weight. If you look on the opposite side of the trigger housing here, you'll see this little roll pin. That is what creates the maximum and minimum pull weights on your trigger. So as you loosen this screw, you'll see that little roll pin rotating back in its channel there. So that is our minimum trigger pull weight, and up here at the other end was our maximum pull weight. So right now we've got it adjusted all the way down, removed almost all of the trigger pull weight. So that's how the trigger weight is adjusted. The trigger creep is adjusted with this other screw that's here in the front of the trigger assembly. This one I need to adjust the shoe back a little bit to access the hole, but I'll show you that here on this other one. So here we have the trigger in the gun. I decided to remove the skins off of this rifle so you can actually see how it goes in the gun. So here you've got our trigger assembly mounted to the rifle. It's attached with two screws that go here and here. That's what attaches the trigger assembly to the receiver itself. And if you look here, you can actually see the transfer bar. So the transfer bar attaches there to the top of the trigger as I showed you, and then it comes back here, and that's where it breaks on the sear. So I'm going to stick a bolt in here just so you can see how this works. So now we have the bolt in, closed and cocked. So now the striker weight is pressed against the sear there, and when I pull the trigger back, it trips the sear and then fires the rifle, of course. So now you can see kind of how that all works inside the receiver. I'm going to go over some of the steps we already showed you how to adjust the trigger on your SRS or HTI. I'm going to show you a little bit more about it. So we'll cock it again. So now our trigger assembly is below the safety. We told you about not removing too much creep from the rifle, otherwise your safety won't engage, and that is why. If you take out too much of the creep, as I'll show you here, if you take out too much creep, not only will the gun fire, but you won't be able to engage your safety. So if you back it off just enough to where your safety will engage, that's essentially the minimum amount of creep you can get. If you turn this clockwise until it stops basically against the safety and then just back it off a tiny bit, that is the minimum amount of creep you can get. So I remove the safety, and then the trigger drops with almost no creep at all. Your trigger weight is adjusted by the screw to the rear of the trigger, as we showed you before. So right now, this particular trigger I have backed out all the way. As you can see here in this little groove, maybe you can see it. So this trigger is adjusted for the least amount of pull and the least amount of creep. And just to show you what that translates to, by backing the weight all the way off and the creep all the way down, we get the trigger basically as light as possible. So we'll test it here and see what we get. So 1 pound 6 ounces. Let's do it again just for the heck of it. 1 pound 6 ounces again. So you can see that's a pretty light trigger for a tactical style rifle, but it can obviously be adjusted more to get more pull, or more pull weight. So if we tighten this rear screw up, you can see our little roll pin rotating to the rear, and then when it stops like that, stopping by turning it clockwise here, we've increased the pull weight. Once it stops, that is our maximum trigger pull weight. So now we can test the pull weight again and see what we've got. So 2 pounds 13 ounces there. Pounds 13 ounces again. So you see that's the maximum trigger pull weight you can have on the rifle. So you can obviously set it wherever you like. The important thing is to remember, after you get it set where you like, it's important to put a dab of Loctite. We use blue Loctite. Just put one little drop on both of these screws, both your creep and your trigger pull weight, to keep them from moving from that position. And then you've got them right where you want them. There's also a trigger pull length adjustment on this trigger, which is this screw here in the side of the trigger shoe itself. Using the same 2.5mm wrench, you can just loosen that there, and once you loosen that screw, you can see it's on a dovetail. So loosen this screw and then your trigger can slide, as you can see, slides right off. You can slide it back on, and you can adjust that to wherever is most comfortable for you, forward or back if you've got big hands, or you can put it way up to the front, or if you've got short fingers, you can put it to the rear. You can put it wherever it fits you best, and then snug that back up. And there's your trigger length adjustment right there. So that's how you can get the most out of your SRS and HTI triggers. Like I said, it is the same trigger. Whether you're shooting an SRS or an HTI, it is the exact same trigger in both rifles. So these processes of adjustment can be used in either one.